everybody. Welcome to your Lunch and Learn Hour. It's Paulette. I'm the owner and founder of Brownstone Worldwide, which houses, of course, brownstoneworldwide.com. We have KCCR The Brownstone and, of course, Brownstone Living Magazine. We're here to help you continue to change the narrative on how we tell our stories ourselves. Now, we've got an amazing individual that is going to be joining us today, and I'm super excited to have her come on and speak with us about a couple of things that you need to know and learn more about in our Lunch and Learn Hour series. So, Kimberly O'Neil, which has first of all, Kimberly O'Neil, let's say that, who has a company called Giving Blueprint, is the perfect person to talk to about funding for businesses, for nonprofits, things of that nature. But we're also going to be following Kimberly on her journey through government. Yes, local government in the area where she's from. So we're going to be talking about that. We're just going to be all over the place. We're going to learn so much today. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on Kimberly O'Neil, and let's get this party started. Hey, girl, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's so good to be with you today. So I'm excited. I'm excited because I love talking to people.
Yes, this is awesome. So listen, just as a backstory, I want people to understand why and how we ended up in this space today. Okay. So you and I were at a conference, actually, Traffic Sales and Profit Game Plan 2023. I'm going to give them a shout out. Shout out to Ronnie and Lamar Tyler.
No doubt.
For their amazing ability to bring so many amazing businesses together. So listen, you and I were actually in the Mastermind private room. Yeah. And something had happened that Saturday. Yeah. And I understand that it was about police reform. We were having that conversation, and then it got heated, and we got to talking about county government and all of the things. So before you started Giving Blueprint, you were in government. Let's start there.
Yeah.
Let's start there. And I need a little tea. Because you was spilling a little tea, honey.
I was. You know, what's interesting is a lot of people don't realize I wanted to be part of the CIA. You know, I wanted to be, and so we're going to go back to typewriter days, right? And word processors first came out. There was no Microsoft Word or anything like that. And two things happened that changed my mind. Okay. One was my friend applied to be an intern with the Secret Service. I went to an HBCU, and it was a Saturday morning, and you know, your dorm mother has to call you down for guests. And so I came downstairs, and I'm looking for who called me, and I see these two white men standing in suits. I said, well, I know they're not for me. So I kept looking, and they called my name, Kimberly O'Neil. I said, oh, wait a minute. They talked to me about her, and I remember thinking, what fool puts a college student down as a reference? But they asked about every and anything, but more importantly, they knew who I was, right? Not just what I looked like. They knew who I was. They knew where I was from. And so that was one I was like, okay, well, this is a little invasive, right? But then the application period for the CIA came out. And I remember looking at the length of that application, and I was like, what is Plan B? Because
okay,
that application was so long and it required an essay. Now, when you're in college and you used to writing essays, it's the last thing I want to do for a job. But instantly, what triggered in me was Plan B, which was close to a Plan A, was just working in local government and going back home to do that. So I graduated. I did an internship with the federal government, and then I went home and started my career with New York City government. And I realized my love for community, that was the place I needed to stay, because in local government, everything that you do touches the people. And I am a person that's rooted in community engagement, community capacity building. So it was perfect for me. And so I've been all over the place, worked for the Housing Authority, did a lot of equal employment opportunity work for the city of New York, transitioned to DC government. I was recruited to work for DC government, worked for the DC Office of the Inspector General and did performance audits, went on to the mayor's office of DC and did some quality assurance compliance for him. and then got an opportunity. I was looking for a job, and out of nowhere, and this is one thing I want to add this as a point for everybody. Your
Mhm.
reputation is everything. Your
Mm.
name is everything.
Yes.
Because at this particular point in my career, and I was young, I was still in my 20s, right?
Wow.
Just teetering into 30s when I transitioned out of DC government and started doing some contractual work. My resume started circulating, and I started getting random calls from politician offices.
Mm.
High people in the C-suite in different governments asking, could they come and talk to me? They did not know how they got my resume, or my resume was forwarded from someplace else. I don't know how my resume got to some of those places. And I remember going into Baltimore city government, talking to the mayor's chief of staff. And he was like, I got your resume. It's just really interesting. I was wondering if you come and talk to me. Within 11 days from that day, I had had so many interviews, not only in the city government, but also outside of the city government. He asked for
Mhm.
permission to share my resume all over. And I actually accepted a position within one of their agencies.
Mm.
And what I consider my dream job came to me. A mayor of a small city outside of DC, the city of Glenarden, she said, I got your resume from our county councilman's office. And I'm a part-time mayor. I will never forget this day, because I was like,
Mm.
God, what you doing for me?
Okay.
And she said, I'm a part-time mayor and I require a full-time city manager here, and ours just resigned. Would you be interested in coming to talk to me about doing it in an interim capacity until we find the person that we're going to? Now, I had just turned 31.
Wow.
Right. This is a job I thought I was going to get in my 50s. Right.
Wow.
Had to do all of these things. So I was like, let me go talk to her. And the conversation on an interim, so not even permanent position,
Mhm.
was so inspiring to me. She was the first female mayor of that city,
Mm.
that I gave up the permanent opportunity to go and work with her. And
Wow.
within 6 months, it was actually within 4 months, I think it was, I had
Mhm.
been asked to stay on permanently. So
Mm.
that changed the trajectory of everything about my professional life. So I ended up serving at that time as the youngest Black woman to serve as a city manager throughout the country. Went
Wow.
on to move. I moved to Texas. That's how I got to Texas. So I kept getting these opportunities that I really didn't have to apply for. I applied in the official status, but the conversation started a lot differently for me.
Mm.
So I have done so much in government, and I'm probably retired technically, but I've also taught when I left government. So I did that for 20 years, and when I cycled out of government, I missed it. I really, really missed it. So I started teaching it. And so
Really?
I taught full time and part time on the undergrad level. And right now, well, I'm technically not retired, because I still am on staff adjunct with Tulane University and the John Lewis Public Administration program. So I teach courses in public policy, graduate level courses in public policy, as well as nonprofit management. So, and I love it. I love it.
Wait a minute.
Love it.
Wait a minute. You're a powerhouse.
Thank you.
Y'all. I hope that in the past that you all have picked up on what Sister Kim has just put down in the Brownstone community. Let's talk about one thing that has stood out in this entire conversation. One, it sounds as if you always led with excellence. Is that what I heard?
It is. It is. I will fight for my name. You can do it. My name and my money. Don't mess with those two things. I
Those
will
two.
fight for it. Yeah, I will fight for it, because it has opened doors for me
Mhm.
that if my name is ruined in any capacity, that
Mhm.
those doors will begin to close. So I understand the
Mm.
power of who I am,
Mhm.
my reputation, but I
Yeah.
also understand the power of my social capital. The
Yes.
people that I've met, the relationships that I have. And
Mhm.
I'm also not one of those people where you hear people say, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I don't want them
Right.
near me.
Okay.
I don't have time for that, right?
Mm-mm.
I want the good energy around me. I want the
Absolutely.
people that there's some like mind, some synergy, some
Yeah.
opportunity for us to exchange information.
Mhm.
And when that service is no longer available to me or to them, it is time to move and shift forward
Mm.
because I have too much to lose. And
Mm.
I think, one of the things that I started, I was sharing with someone not too long ago, maybe earlier this week, that when it comes down to the work that I do and how I
Mhm.
serve, like I want to show up as my most authentic self.
Yes.
So, one of the lessons that I've learned over the course of this journey is I am who I am at all times,
Yeah.
right?
You are.
I am. I'm a kid from New York.
Mhm.
I'm rooted in hip hop. I
Come
truly
on.
believe that those two things together have really provided, outside of family and professional experience, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
those two things together are truly part of the foundation for why community means so much to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I try to take that in everywhere that I go, every room that I go in.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of times as Black professionals, we do too much code switching,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And you forget what player you are on any given day. I don't want that feeling.
Come
I don't
on.
want to stress about how I show up. If I feel like showing up in some Jordan 1s, that's how I'm showing up that day.
That part.
Right?
Yes.
If I want to show up in my bamboo earrings, that's how, and I probably show up that
Come
like
on.
that every single day.
Yeah.
It's just something freeing
Yeah.
about being able to show up and serve as your most authentic self in the
Mhm.
places and spaces that you want to be. And government was part of that. Just
Yeah.
recognizing that local government touches us every single day
Right.
with what we do, that it was fun to me, stressful, but
Fun.
fun. Fun
Yeah.
because the people I truly believe I worked for the people,
Mm.
paid my salary, their taxes did. It
Mhm.
didn't matter if I was entry level or at that C-suite level.
Mhm.
The people were the ones I was more concerned with than
Right.
anybody that I reported to.
I love that. I love that. And so we're talking about being our most authentic self no matter where we are and
Mhm.
taking who we are with a level of excellence so that your name can
Yes.
precede you.
Yes.
Now, I heard you say that
Yes. Yes.
and how important that is
Mhm.
because there are not many people that can say that they didn't have to job hunt,
Yeah.
that it kind of just followed them. So it was almost as if your journey was unfolding and you were accepting of your journey and your life experience. And all of the skills and the things that have made you who you are, it
Yeah.
just kind of gently unfolded in front of you.
It did. And not without pain, right?
Mhm,
So I don't want
mhm.
anybody to think like this was, oh, so easy. She just
Yeah.
had me handed to her, because that's not it.
Mhm,
Right?
mhm,
There were days on this journey I would call my mother crying,
mm,
right?
mm,
Like, why would God give this to me so young? Like, if people are
mhm.
not going to listen to me, you're elevating me here, but people like you older, you about my granddaughter's age, baby girl, and so there's that. And then you are managing and leading your peers in age. That's a
Yes.
different ball game. Like one day we were working together. Another day I'm now leading the team. And so, it was really difficult. It was
Mm,
really difficult. But
mhm,
then there were the times that I got a leader that would hold tight to me,
mhm,
recognize something in me, that they would give me the experiences because I would work, right?
mhm.
You gave me the opportunity. If you told me, for the next 5 days, you're going to be acting in this capacity because I'm going on vacation, don't call me unless the building's
Mm,
burnt, right? But
right.
they left me with the tools that
Yeah.
helped me
Mhm,
to get to the next level. And I
mm.
remember, Paulette, when I was transitioning from the inspector general's office to the mayor's office in DC, I actually cried and tried to rescind my resignation
No.
I cried. And my boss said to me, I will never forget. She's one of the best women I have ever worked for.
Mm.
She said, I don't accept it. It's time for you to go.
Oh,
No, she wouldn't accept me rescinding my
right,
resignation because I was like,
right.
no, 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 I have more to learn. Because I was still so young. I was in
Mm.
my 20s getting this immense opportunity. And she said, I don't accept it. It is time for you to go. And I kind of felt abandoned. Like,
Oh.
how you not just gonna send me out there? But she did the best thing for me
Mhm.
because I needed that next level of independence
Yeah.
and to feel comfortable in all that I had accomplished. I was the youngest on the team.
Mm.
I had the most responsibility on the team.
Mm.
When she went away on vacation, I was one of the ones that was acting in her place.
Yeah.
So for her, I have gotten you to the point, and now it's time for you to make me proud and go to the next level. Like my family knew her name. Like
Wow.
it was, and so it wasn't always easy, but when I
Mhm.
found and engaged with people that were willing to protect me, I held on close to them as well because
Yes.
I knew that my best interest was in their hearts. And that for me, I've had a few people, but she was the real anchor that really made me start trusting leaders and
Mm.
thinking like somebody isn't just working me overtime. Like she really
Yes.
does have my best interest at heart. And I'm so thankful for her and changing the trajectory of what
Mm.
I believed I could do for myself as well.
Wow. Gosh, I'm getting so many nuggets here. So wait a minute. Let's talk really quick. A couple of things that you brought to light, and I think we need to definitely talk about this, Kim, is the idea that your leadership is to drive you,
Yes.
to abandon you, to push you to the point where you're working off the clock, you're doing all of the things and micromanaging you. I'm hearing none of that from you. What I'm hearing is leadership, and being a true leader from your personal experience
Yeah.
has been one to allow you to thrive and to grow and to develop into the next phase of your personal experience.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
It is, and it's how I learned how to be a leader,
Mm.
right? My first
That's good.
conversations in government when I would take over is, "Tell me what you wanna do with your life,"
Mm.
right? "You're not going to be here forever. I wanna know what you want to do so that I know how to help to prepare you professionally."
Oh, I love that.
Right? I'm not afraid of losing people because it's time for them to ascend to the next level because no one's done it to me. Like there
Mm.
were people that we could have done without the relationship, right?
Right.
But for
Right.
the most part, my leaders have been amazing and they
Mm.
have encouraged me. And so who am I not to return that favor to the
Yeah.
next group of people, especially those that are under me? And quite honestly, I've done it for people that haven't been under me. They may have been
Yeah.
under my peer, right?
Yeah.
But if they just wanted to have open conversations, like, tell me what you want to do. Are you going to school? You looking for a certificate? Tell me what kind of salary you're looking for.
Right. Right.
And when I transitioned to that position in the mayor's office for DC government,
Mm-hmm.
most of my employees were just graduating out of high school. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, out of
Yeah.
college.
Wow.
And so they didn't have a lot of experience. And
Mm-hmm.
I had that conversation with each and every one of them. And it
Mm-hmm.
was about leadership. It
Mm.
was about visibility. It was about six figures. And I said,
Mm.
that's doable. And I look at what they're doing right now. A good number of them still work for DC government. Many of them are in leadership positions.
Yeah.
All of them are making over six figures. Like for me, and it's so funny, we still all keep in touch. It's the best team I've ever had. And we
Wonderful.
still keep in touch. And it's so funny. I'm like, no, now we're friends now. But
Mm.
no, they still consider me as their leader, like
Mm.
the person that helped to open doors. And I think everybody should have that kind of experience,
Yeah.
right?
I
It's not
agree.
about ego for me. It's about
Mm-hmm.
saying, we got you to the next level, that you can
Mm.
take care of yourself, that you're not necessarily worried about where your next dollar is coming from
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
you've been positioned well. That's leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership is
Yeah.
being able to take off and being comfortable that your team can do the work.
Come
Leadership is
on.
not about that micromanagement, and leadership is not about standing over people and
Right.
browbeating people. It's not about that. it really is about what kind of harmony can we make as a team so that if one person falls off, the team knows how to scoop up and keep
Yes.
the operation going, even if that person is the top leader.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness, girl, I want you to be my leader. Come on, hire me. Look. Let's no, I'm kidding. But honestly, these are good conversations to have because unfortunately, in today's workplace, we're hearing more and more people talking about the toxic workplace.
Yeah.
I myself came from corporate and I worked in human resources, DEI. I was the director of DEI for a major corporation, and it was hellacious. My leadership was not leadership. I don't know what it was. Lack of communication, the fear of the Black planet in the building. I was the blackest thing on the team. I was the token Negro. I'm just going to put it out there. And I was not utilized properly. So many people are not being held accountable as leaders to do their best to groom their counterparts for the next phase and the next level in their careers and in their lives. And the sad part is in me even having this portion of the conversation, I'm hearing you say the level of leadership that you had in your life. Not one time did I hear you say that someone pointed the finger at you and said, you didn't do? I believe that what I'm hearing you also say is that in some form, that leadership is also responsible for that level of you didn't do. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, when we're talking about what you didn't do, let's talk about what you didn't do, Mr. or Mrs. Leader, let me put those in quotation marks, where that person fell short, where maybe they didn't deliver the way that they were supposed to. How could that possibly happen?
So I think one of the things I'm great at
Yeah.
is documenting my process and my journey,
Mm.
right? I have created my own performance forms in terms of what I did, what I didn't do, what I couldn't do because I didn't get the information that I did. I'm very good at putting things in writing and not in a way where people feel like, oh, there she goes again, documenting. No, it's just my habit now. So
Yeah.
it doesn't pop up occasionally. This is just the process that I'm
Yes.
always documenting. But I also have a really good mind. And part of that is because of my background with doing performance audits and some of the work in equal opportunity and equity, that I can remember things that I've observed just visually, and I don't have to write it down, and I can go back another time and dump everything down in the order that it happened. And so in the instances, because I have had those leaders, you know, I've had those leaders where, you know, on a performance rating, this happened when I was in the city of Fort Worth. Like I went from like close to perfect in a performance rating to mediocre, and I had not been given a performance review in 2 years. We had missed a year, but I was also being rated on things that we couldn't do as a team. So in those areas, I was marked deficient, but those were the things that our leader at the time told us we weren't doing because we didn't have the information. And I had one question were my peers rated on this as well? So she had to remove it because they weren't. Right? And so by the time we went back and forth, and I think this is important to share with people about being your own advocate.
Yes.
Don't accept simply because somebody has given it to you if you can document otherwise. And that's what I did. And so by the time we finished, my rating was really back to where it was before. Right. And there was a lot of apologies, but it does come from being comfortable to say that's actually not my recollection of that. And here's what I recall. I recall you telling us on this particular date, you know, based on our performance plan, that we weren't going to do this. And I've never been given communication otherwise. And when you rated me lower on this area, it's because you also asked me to pick up on someone else's area, my peer who couldn't do his job, and you asked me to take over, and I did. So there has to be some level of balance. So it's not a matter of, look, you did this wrong, leader, but it is a matter of, I might not be your top priority today, but I'm going to remind you of all the things that I've done to help
Yes.
justify why I don't think this
Yes.
particular rating or this particular discussion about me and this narrative is not true. We've got to be our own advocates. And it
Yes.
means that we've got to document our achievements as well as the areas we have not done as well. Like, be honest
Absolutely.
about those things. But I don't think enough people are really their greatest advocates, and it's because they're not documenting their journey. And if I could leave anybody with any lesson and any tip, it is to document what you are doing, document your journey, document the changes, right? And put it in writing, or at least keep it for yourself. But major changes, I always believe, should be documented in writing. That way there is no misinterpretation of what you think you're supposed to do and what your leader thinks you're supposed to do.
Absolutely. I love that. Oh my goodness. Girl, we could sit here and we could talk about career and we could talk about all of the things because you are dropping. I hope that everybody that is listening to the sound of my voice or who is going to be watching this on BWTV are taking notes because Kimberly, you have dropped some crazy nuggets. So I'm just going to recap what I picked up on first before we move on. Number one, you talked about always performing at a level of excellence where your name can precede you. Always recognize, and even if you can, always try to pay attention to when it is your time to exit, even when it doesn't feel good.
Even when it doesn't feel good.
Right. And then also understanding that good leadership is a gift. Where you are the student and they are the teacher. And they are preparing you for the next level in your life, not just your professional life, but your life, because whatever you're doing in your professional life ends up a part of your life.
It does.
But I wasn't paying attention. I peeped all of that. Absolutely.
It does. And it feels, government is my safe space. And I was just tired. I was just tired. But I wish that there were more people, especially Black people, aspiring to serve in government, go higher. Because representation is a real thing. And we can't be so dissatisfied with what government looks and feels like that we just don't want to be a part of it. But I felt it was part of my responsibility, to be able to not only carry the voice of the communities that I felt that I was serving, but also a responsibility to course correct my peers.
Wow.
Right. And we often hear about that, like through police. Where were the other police officers, the good police officers who could correct? But it's not limited to law enforcement. It's government across the board. And we have to course correct and make sure that we're carrying voices for communities and for people. And sometimes it's even the vendors that do business with the city. When something doesn't sound right, if something doesn't look right, it is our responsibility as those of us that serve. It's not just residents figuring things out and coming to protest or speak at a council meeting or something like that. So those of us on the inside need to be able to speak up as well. So that we can course correct to make sure that the residents and the community make sure that they are served with honor and dignity and in the way that they should be.
I love that. And it's so funny that you brought that up because I was just speaking with someone else that I know that works in government, and the level of concern that they have for the office that they work in. You notice I'm trying to be very, very discreet here. The level of concern that they have for the office that they work in, where they're one of the only few who is really concerned for the people that they serve. And cases are being held for months and sometimes years, impacting people out here, the constituents that they are serving, impacting them for years, where it's impacting their livelihood or being able to pay for medicine and those things. And so it concerns me, where does this level of, not so much entitlement, but I'm here to get a good government job. How many times have we heard that in our community? Let's just get a good government job so I can retire. I have heard with these two ears People literally say, "Oh, I'm just here for the next 10 years. I ain't finna do nothing. I'm gonna do the bare minimum and get my benefits so I can retire and get
Yeah.
whatever's coming to me." Right. But in that, there's that level of entitlement that comes with attitude,
Mm-hmm.
disdain for the people that are paying your salary, as you stated.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care what's going on. I've only got 5 or 10 more years and I'm going to do the bare minimum. I've literally heard people say that, and they treat the job as such. They treat the people as such. How do we even dig into that? How do we, like, there should be some type of checks and balance where when reports aren't being done and things aren't being done and people are begging for help and they can't get it, or they're getting a phone call. This personally happened to me recently, where I was making a call to a local government office and I received a call back, and the woman was so nasty to me on purpose, as if I should know, like she should know media, right? As if I should know. And she was so nasty with me. And it was clear. I could see her in my mind's eye. I have never met the person in person, but I could see her in my mind's eye. And if I drove to the office around the corner from where I live, I would probably be right. She's been with the county government for probably 20, 30 years, and she ain't messed up about what you got going on. I'm telling you what it is, and you're not going to circumvent me. And no, you can't get my supervisor's number. And I got 5 more years. So what you going to do? How do we address those people?
It starts with leadership.
Mm.
It starts with leadership. People can only do what they're allowed to do.
Mm.
Right? When there's no level of accountability, because leaders sometimes, there's so many things, right? So sometimes it's that people are overworked, underpaid, and I am going to do the bare minimum because I keep telling you what I need and you all
Mm.
don't give it to me. So I'm going to give the people what I can give, right? And
Mm.
so sometimes what we feel from government employees is because they are frustrated with what they don't have to do their jobs. And the
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate part is it shows up
Yeah.
and that experience that customer experience that you're
Mm-hmm.
having, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the people that you can't fire me. This is a good government job. I know it's going to take you 10 years to get rid of me because I know the system and I know how to use the system,
Woo.
right? So depending upon, if you're in a unionized environment, right to work state, like the experience is very different. And I come from New York City government. Everything was unionized.
Mm.
So I watch people get their good government salary while they had been written up so they didn't have to deal with the community. And they sat and literally filed folders because that was their punishment until their case came up with the union and the city. So until that time, they just came to work, sat in a corner and filed. So you going to pay me this good government salary so you think you punishing me? No, honestly, you haven't. You haven't. They
Mm.
they don't have to think. They don't have to critically think. I don't if anybody's watched the documentary Waiting for Superman, there is a part of the movie where they're talking about the rubber room, where
Mm.
teachers in unionized environments go. And
Yeah.
so they just show up in this room
Mm-hmm.
until their case. So that could be a year later, it could be 6
Mm.
months later. But that's what we're talking about. So government employees sometimes, I don't necessarily believe it's intentional sometimes. I think sometimes they're tired.
Mm.
Or you'll hear, I was here before you. Like as a new, I was here before you. I'm gonna be here
Right.
after you because you're gonna leave too. Right. And so they just become so jaded by their own work experience and then they're
Mm-hmm.
not being paid. There's just so many different nuances
Right.
in
Yeah.
that. But for me, and I wrote an op-ed about this, following the passing of George Floyd.
Mm.
And I wrote an article, an op-ed that said none of this will change until the leaders in law enforcement
That part.
are gone,
That
right?
part.
Because if you keep getting rid of rank and file, but the leaders are kept in place, the
Yes.
behavior is still in place,
That's
right?
right.
So this goes across government. When
Mm-hmm.
leaders are ineffective in what they do, and I'm going to give you an example, and I won't say the government. So this was my personal experience in
Yeah.
government. And there was a team that was considered entry level, but nothing in this entire operation that we had of almost 300 people worked if this entry level team did not do their job. Everything, our total operation was dependent upon them.
Yeah.
And they realized in our little system that they could count, like they had like a threshold of 300 that needed to be done today. On average, most people could do 800. So they felt like nobody cared about them. So they started paying attention to this tickler on the computer, and their office was down the hall from mine. And I would hear like claps and whistles and snaps. They had developed their own language to communicate to one another when they were close to the 300. So they stopped at 300 on the dot every single day.
Wow.
And so then they wanted to write them up about it. I said, well, you can't write them up if you said the standard was 300. 300 is what they're giving you. So you cannot write them up for that. So they started having mandatory overtime. And the employees were complaining. And I had some HR responsibility in this operation. So I came in early. So a young man had been written up because they came in on a Saturday. Dress code, we didn't really care about that on Saturday. He wore shorts, right? You're expecting him to work a full day. He wore shorts. It's hot outside.
Right.
And he was written up and sent home. So I came in the next Saturday before anyone else got there. So I got there like 6:30 in the morning, closed my door, and just listened. And I heard them doing, because they were trying to catch up because we were so behind, because they all did this immediate slowdown. All of that to say, I opened the door. Their supervisor had on Daisy Dukes. The same woman that had written him up the week before had on Daisy Dukes. So I sent her home. She wasn't even mine. I was a superior in the operation. I sent her home and I stayed. Because from a lesson learned, you're not going to write someone up who don't, to me, knee shorts. Like they were nice. They were dress shorts because he brought them in to show. And your justification is because you're going to the park with your kids after. You might as well go on now.
Right.
So I ended up taking over that operation. I changed the rules in terms of what their minimum standard was. In less than a week, they were catching up. I included them in staff meetings. I had them lead staff meetings. Only thing I did was talk about the required things I needed to. We had pizza parties. We did a whole lot of different things. They had actually gone to HR before I took over, right? They were talking about class action lawsuits. I mean, you want to think people are dumb? They are real smart when you mess with them and their money and how you're treating them. But they caught up, and I started asking them the same thing. You don't belong here. Tell me what else you want to do. You can't stay here forever. First of all, it's physically, you're not going to be able to do this forever. So we started talking about other things that they wanted to do. They went back to HR. All of that went away. This was about leadership. This government experience where everybody thought that they were rude, ineffective, creating chaos, was about leadership, and no one listened to them. So that was my agreement. I'm going to listen to you, but let's talk about these numbers. So this is not at the end of every day. I told IT, take that number off. Do what you can. And we went to good, better, best. Right. So now here's the standard. If you really can't do as well as everybody else, here's your standard. This standard is an hourly standard. But it was about, how do we get rid of the bad people? P.S. In 3 weeks, that woman quit.
Wow.
In 3 weeks, she quit. Because you can't treat people that way and expect people to show up for you and serve our communities well.
Absolutely.
But if we treat people with dignity and recognize who they are and the importance in the operation in government, and we can see magic happen. A lot of what we feel is because of people like that.
Yeah.
Right. And then we just have the trifling people too, because I had those too, right? Sometimes it really is about the lack of leadership, the lack of accountability, the lack of leaders even knowing what their people are supposed to do. That drives me crazy as well. How can you tell me what to do and you have no idea what I'm responsible for? right? So I think
Mm.
in government, there's, as you can tell, I love talking about government, but I just
Mhm.
feel like we are not represented. I was one of few in terms of people of color. But I was also one of few of the people of color that
Mhm.
made sure that people of color across the board were
Yes.
not treated poorly,
Right.
you
Right.
know? So we need that in government because I
Mhm.
think if people felt better,
Yeah.
they would do better.
They would do better. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100% I agree.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Listen. Woo! You stayed in government long enough to get all that juicy stuff.
I stayed in long enough in government before I became that person you were talking about.
Uh-oh.
Because you get tired. You get tired.
You do.
20 years was a long time.
Mhm.
And even when I worked full time, and it's not a secret, you can Google it because it's online. I left because of racism. I left because of ineffective leadership. I left because I was called the B word in a meeting,
Mm.
and my leader, who was in the room, said nothing. Right? I left because people didn't understand, as the only Black person, the only person of any color across 5 disciplines under this leader. How does that feel when someone can say something and no one say
Nobody.
anything,
Mm.
right? And so just in government, you get to a point where you are so tired, and I always tell people this, you stay until you can't serve anymore, but you're
Yeah.
also not being served anymore,
That's right.
right? This is
Absolutely.
a relationship,
Mm.
and you it may have interviewed me, right?
Mhm.
You may have ultimately selected me on
Mhm.
paper, but I selected you too.
Yeah. That's
Right?
right.
And I think that we all have to, and it's not that easy for everybody because of income, right?
Mhm.
And having to take care of your responsibilities. But I think that we are not holding people accountable enough
Right.
to know that I can't leave, because what I do know for sure is I'm one of your dangling carrots. I'm one of the best people that you have. I'm great
Yes.
at what I do. And
Yes.
please, people, tell yourselves that I am
Yes.
great at what I do. I
Yes.
have been saying this since the people were telling me, my grandbaby is your age,
Mm.
that I am a big deal and there's nothing wrong with saying it. I have been saying that for decades.
I need to applaud. I need to start giving me some sound bites in here. Because ma'am, you said a word right there.
Yeah.
We need to, as people overall, and I think that this,
Yeah.
and I'm guilty of this as well, right? So few people know all of my accolades, and that's not what we're here for, right?
Mhm.
But the conversation that you just spoke about, that you just had right here in that tiny little frame of time, you said that we have to start speaking how great we are.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think when we are job hunting and we're doing all of the things to get to that next place, our nerves get shook because we know that there's competition out there and we are uncertain about who we are and what we do and all of the things that we've done in our careers, especially as we are transitioning to another phase in
Yeah.
our careers, right?
Yes.
So I know I recently experienced that. And I think one of the reasons why I made a decision not to go back to corporate was because I just didn't have the stomach for it anymore. I don't want to communicate. I don't want to compete with these babies. I don't want you to think because of these gray hairs that I'm tired and I'm gonna be taking naps in the back. I'm probably gonna run circles around all of your folks because I've been there, done that, and I probably built the platform that they standing on, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it is a challenge, I think, for a lot of us. Let's just keep
Mhm.
it real. I'm gonna go here. So, and since this is my platform, I'm gonna say it. Jenny, all she got to do is breathe, and she's excellent. She can put a little pumps on and, do a little hair and put a little, powder on her face and a little lip rouge, as my mother would say. And she's the greatest thing since sliced bread because she walked into the office. We could do black back flips as Black folks, and we still are questioned about our validity, our sanity, who we are in the office, in the workplace. So we're dealing with all of that, and 9 times out of 10, especially when you're talking about, being at the specific levels that some of us made it to in corporate, we're usually the raisin in the sun. And so we have to prove over and over and over again. And still, sometimes my personal opinion does count here because this actually has happened. An idea or a concept that I may have come up with is overlooked. Johnny or Jenny says the same thing.
Same thing.
Verbatim.
Verbatim,
Change
like it's
color.
new.
And it's, oh my God, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, Johnny.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and implement right away. We'll get a budget and a team together for you. And I'm sitting here in the back going, did that shit just really happen?
And that's when I remind them, that's like the idea that I sent last January. Remember, I sent it to you via email. I will remind you are the asset.
Yes.
Right? It's not that they cherry picked you. You are the asset.
Absolutely.
Well, what I have typically told my team members that have moved on, that are looking for opportunities, position yourself and make it hard for them to say, I won't select you. If you have done your due diligence, if you have interviewed well, if you have shown up and performed well, like they're just going to be the people that are just who they are. But I always say, make it hard for them to say, I didn't choose you.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because when you do that, you feel better about knowing, oh, I didn't interview good enough. I didn't have enough ideas. I didn't engage well. I'm going to tell you, when I came here to Fort Worth, I was being considered for the director and the assistant director of the same department. I had already been interviewed and been offered the assistant director when I came back down here a few weeks later to interview for the director position. And I kid you not. They had this dog and pony dance show. The first night, it was a multi-day process. And I went to the recruiter and said, I'm going to intentionally not interview well because I don't want the role anymore. I'm going to be okay with the number 2. And she just looked at me and I said, because if I interview well, this job is mine. And we are still connected to this day. She can validate that. I went to her before we actually started the interview process. I said, oh, I don't want to do politics. I've been a city manager. I don't want to do this. Like this part, I'm in a different season in my career, right? The city manager took a lot out of me.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do this part because I'm better than that. I don't need to do all of that to do good and lead and govern. This other piece, because I knew I was transitioning seasons in what I was getting ready to do on this second half of life. And the way she giggled, it was like a slight giggle. She was like, oh, okay. And I did, and I remember the times where I was like, ooh, let me hold back on that. Let me not give them, because most people say when I interview, we don't have any more questions to ask you because you answered them all already.
Wow.
That's the point that I would not give them that time. And so position yourself, right? Make it hard for them to say no. Like, we don't want you, right? Because then you feel better about, I didn't get that opportunity, but they're missing something. That's why you have to tell yourself, I'm a big deal. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. I am the asset. My experience is dope. Like there's nobody that can do this better than me. And I hate when people say be humble. About what?
About what?
I don't want anybody. No one ever has to tell me I'm brilliant. Nobody ever has to tell me I'm a genius. Nobody ever has to tell me. And I tell that to people. I don't need that validation. I don't want that validation because that's not why I'm here. Like I know if I show up, I'm going to give you everything that I have. So I don't question that ever. I know I'm good at what I do. I know I'm the asset. But what I want to make sure is when we do this good work, we're honoring the people that we serve. That's what I'm here for.
Come on.
Please tell yourselves that you are great. Tell yourself that you are worthy. Tell yourself that if they don't pick me, there's something wrong with them. Unless you've not done your due diligence. You've not done your homework. You've not shown up as your very best.
Right.
Like you have to do your part. But when you do your part and you know there is nothing else that I can give through an interview process and a selection process or while I'm in the position, when you know that you've done all that you can do, then sit back and rest on that. Because We'll let people tear us down. And that's the part that I cannot allow people to do.
Yes.
That's the part that I cannot allow people to do to my team members. I
Mhm.
will build people up and make them think they can walk across the sky without any sort of platform. Because when
Yes.
I see greatness, I tell people that have never been told that. And that's important for us to recognize as
Yes.
leaders. When we have that responsibility, that is our responsibility to affirm. I selected you for a reason. You
Mhm.
are on this team because I saw something in you that I did not have.
Mm.
That's our responsibility. When we're too busy competing with our subordinates, we let our insecurities lead.
Child, where my tea? Where my tea? Where's my tea?
Too many people
Y'all.
competing with their insubordinates, because when my team wins, I win. When
You
my
win.
team shines, I
You
shine.
shine.
I've had leaders that have gotten mad at me because people thought I was in a higher position than I was. So then that can't, but if I'm doing well, isn't that a benefit to you?
You.
It means you don't have to come in my lane. It means
Mm.
I got your back.
That part. Yes.
I got your back, because I've always been taught whatever dysfunction we have in the house, we're going to take care of it in the house. We're going to
That
figure it
part.
out in the house. But
Mhm.
I might not care for you. But when I represent you and this operation and I go on the outside, everything
Mhm.
is fine. Unless
That's
it's
right.
unethical or legal, that's different.
Yeah.
But when I go out, I am representing everybody,
I
right?
wish more
So
people
I
saw
am
me.
going at my very best, because
Yeah.
Kimberly doesn't show up in mess,
Mm.
and she's not going to show up and mess on your behalf either.
Yes.
Right. And I just don't think, as leaders in government or elsewhere, that we don't really train people to be the best leaders anymore. And
Yeah.
we don't select the best leaders. We select the best yes men and women.
Woo! Oh, you
We
coming
pick
for
the
people's necks. I
people
need you to stop.
Yeah, we pick the
Woo.
people that won't challenge us. We
Oh.
pick the people that won't question the
Mm.
decisions, that there might be another way of doing something. We are not selecting great leaders anymore. We're selecting great doers and elevating them to places
Mm.
that they are not qualified to be at just then.
Child, I need you to get
Oh,
off
wait a
these
minute, my
folks'
head might start
neck.
hurting.
Woo! You
I'm
listen. Hold
so
on. Where my
passionate
fan at?
about
Listen.
this.
Woo!
I'm so passionate about that part, because we ruin so many people in their spirits,
We do.
because leaders are so insecure, because
Yes.
they are not yet prepared, right? But I've been in that position. I've been
Mm.
under the leader who was not prepared, but she was put in as a mole, right? So she was rewarded for the place that she had. So she wasn't ready to do that. And it showed up like that every single day. Nothing great comes to that. Nothing great comes from that,
My,
right?
my, 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 my.
You might continue to move, but you'll never be at a place that you deserve to be at, right? In terms of the greatness of your
Yes,
potential, because
absolutely.
I don't care what anybody says, nothing great comes. Even when we think, well, they got that job, it's more money. You know how miserable they are?
Girl.
Because if you don't
Mm.
know how to do the job and you don't have a team that you trust, that you
Yeah.
empower, that you
Hmm.
actually lead, that's the most depressing place to be. I never want to be in that place. I
Ever.
want to be
Ever.
surrounded like I have. I have been blessed. Not
Yes.
fortunate, I have been blessed by my team.
Amen.
I have
Amen.
been blessed. Now I'll fire
Hmm.
you in a minute,
Okay.
right? As long as I've done my part.
Hmm.
Have I trained you? Have I course corrected you? Have I
Hmm.
done all of those? Have I checked you? When you've had
Hmm.
an experience like you had in the government, have I
Hmm.
checked my employee because you
Hmm.
called and reported? Have I done my due diligence in giving you everything that you need to perform at the level of my expectation and the level that people deserve that you're dealing with? And if I haven't done that, the person that needs to be checked first is me. I have
Wow.
to own that. I have to.
Woo!
And that is what leadership is about. Leadership
Mm.
is not about just managing people. It's
Yes.
about leading and guiding people and ensuring that everybody has the resources. And when you don't, for whatever reason, have all of the resources that you may need or other people may need, it's about being innovative and ensuring that everybody has a part. Like, we got to get to this finish line, y'all. I own and acknowledge, I know I have not given you everything that you need, but we
Yes.
want to get to this finish line. So I want your
Mhm.
input. on
Yes.
how we can get there.
Oh my gosh, girl, we could go on and on and
We
on. I'm
can.
about to lay in the flow, not the floor. Girl, I'm about to lay in the flow and ask the ushers to come and fan me.
Yeah.
Listen, because you have brought so much fire today, but we gotta start wrapping this up.
Yep.
And I want you to tell us what Kimberly O'Neil is doing now.
Whew. So I am the CEO of Giving Blueprint.
Okay.
I'm known as a community capacity builder, which means
Okay.
I go out and I work in and for communities
Yeah.
to do things that help to mobilize the social and economic mobility of the Black community, right? And
Mm,
so I do that through a philanthropic lens primarily and public policy lens. And so one of the things that we do through an initiative that I started in 2015 called Cause Studio is we work with Black-led nonprofits. So those
mhm,
smaller, newer nonprofits that they're not really able to scale, but they have something.
mhm,
So
mhm.
filling in the pockets of the nonprofit
Yeah.
community that large organizations don't want to or can't. I
Yeah.
work to make sure that they have the infrastructure that they need to be able to serve the
Absolutely.
community well.
Right. Right.
And then we also do a lot of contract work. So it can be with government, it can be with corporations, it could be with private family
Mhm,
foundations. But we look at what does it mean to really build philanthropic strategies and other initiatives that
mhm.
serve the Black community with excellence, where the
Mm.
Black community is the center of the work. So you might think this is what you want to do from an equity perspective. Now tell me what you want to do. Now I'm going to help you develop the strategy to make sure you show up and place this community first and not just feel good because you want to be a savior.
Mm. Okay. Whoo, y'all. GivingBlueprint.com. Kimberly O'Neil.
Yeah.
You are a powerhouse.
Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate you sharing your platform with me. Like these are the things that I like to do, just to be able to talk. There's so much in my head that I feel like sometimes I just need to get it out.
Girl, you
Um,
bad.
that's the gift. That's the gift. I believe that I was given a gift. Like I truly believe that I
Yes.
was given a gift when I used to cry, why did you give this to me so early? Because I was given a gift.
Mm,
And I had to figure out how to nurture that gift. So in
absolutely.
this second season of life, I
Mm,
could figure out what legacy needed to look like. And so my
yes.
work now is about changing the trajectory or adding to the changing, because there's so many of us out here doing it of the Black
Yes.
community with
Yes.
some of the results I may never see in my lifetime. And I'm
My.
okay with that. I'm not looking for the quick solution. I'm looking for the long solution.
That part.
Right.
That
And so this is now legacy season for me. So all of my work has got to lead to, will my nephews and my niece have a better life? And will their children's children have a
yes.
better life because of the work and the seeds that I've planted,
Yes.
even if I'm not around to see the bloom?
Girl. I'm about to lay in the flow. Y'all, you all, everybody knows that that is my favorite phrase. I know I have been touched
Thank you.
by an angel with
Thank
your presence on today.
thank you. I
Praise
appreciate
the Lord,
you.
saints. I appreciate you. And I know that you and I have chatted and talked,
Yeah.
but I have learned. If you all did not learn anything today, I need y'all to check your pulse. I need y'all to wait again until this re-airs, or you need to go over to brownstoneworldwide.com/BWTV and you need to watch this again.
Yeah.
Okay? Because Kimberly, you have brought so many nuggets. You got me over here checking myself. Like, do I realize how great I am? Do I realize the
Exactly.
effectiveness of what I do every
Yeah.
single day?
Yeah.
What does my leadership look
Yeah.
like?
And
I
tell
need
these
to check
babies that.
myself.
And say it to these babies now.
Yes.
Now. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care if they're 3. My friends get mad at me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You do too much. No, your kid's brilliant. Like you raising a genius. Like your baby's a genius.
That
Like I
part.
want to add to that conversation. I want our
Mm-hmm.
kids to never question their
Mm,
ability to be the greatest at anything. I don't
that
have
part.
children, but I'm gonna
Mm.
tell these babies every time I get a chance. You know how smart you are. I don't care about all that. You colored out the lines, but you know why? Because you're doing abstract art.
That
Like
part.
tell these babies how brilliant they are, but it starts
Yes.
with us believing that we deserve that same level of attention, that we deserve
Absolutely.
that same level of accolades. So say it to yourself. Those should be your affirmations. I know
Mm.
we all into affirmations now, but y'all get a little gangster in that mirror.
Come on. Come
Right?
on. She said gangsta.
Get a little gangsta in the mirror.
Mm.
There's nobody greater than me.
Nobody
There's
great.
nobody greater than me.
Mm.
I'm a big deal, and there ain't nothing wrong with say it however you need to say it so you feel it. And that's how I say it. I'm a big deal. Ain't nothing wrong. When I say I've been saying that for decades, I mean decades. I don't need as the brother said at the conference last year, I don't need your claps.
Mm.
When David Banner said, I don't need your claps.
I don't need your claps.
I like them, but I don't need them to feel great in what I do.
Because he already knows.
He already knows. And I know. And I know.
Yes. Ooh, child. I have been blessed.
Friend,
today.
I love you. Thank you so much.
I love you too. This was amazing. Y'all, listen. Givingblueprint.com. Listen. Y'all hook up with Miss Kimberly O'Neil. You need somebody to help you with your philanthropic work. You want to find out more about what this sister does? Hit her up or follow her on her social media platforms at Just Kim Online. Y'all, this has been an amazing Lunch and Learn hour. I cannot thank you enough for your insight and your wisdom today. We've learned so much, so much. And I do appreciate you. And listen, I'm going to build me a platform. We're going to have us a discussion. We're going to bring some other folks on.
Let's do it for real. Let's do it.
Yes. These are conversations we need to have. You guys, once again, this is the Lunch and Learn Hour. It's your girl, Paulette, and you are listening to us talk about changing the narrative of how we tell our stories, our way, here at Brownstone Worldwide. Let's get it popping, y'all. We'll see you in the next edition of the Lunch and Learn Hour. Have a great one. Bye.